people like Jay-Z when he's in a concert and he has everybody screaming Hova, 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 and you have a stadium of 50,000 people saying Hova at the same time. What they are doing is putting the vibration of that name into the universe and manifesting it for him.
Are people, is it an energy exchange, or are people giving away their energy? Like,
because the name generally takes about some months to kick in, like you won't feel it immediately, but it's a drastic shift when you do have a change. Community, and I don't live too far away from Crown Heights, and so seeing these children being disenfranchised, being displaced, started to get to me. You can't escape the fate of your birth name, but you can. A name has more power the more it's called, and by the most people that it's called by. Fours are not necessarily people who create things from scratch, but they look at what's there and they revolutionize it. I was trapped within my body, thinking that the way that I was outwardly facing the world was my stamp, whereas it's all inside of me. And so prior to us coming and incarnating into this life, we have agreements that we make with certain people. I'm going to come back as this, you're going to come back as that, and we're going to work through our past life karma in this ways. But if you're not aware of it, how do you know that if you're repeating these patterns?
hey everybody, welcome back to Transformation to Expansion. Today we have a very, very, very special guest, Jacquii Leveine. She is a professional, or was a professional educator, grant writer, and executive director within the New York City Department of Education for 17 years. She left her government post in 2018 in pursuit of her entrepreneurial dream to heal generations with the numerical wisdom and purpose found in numerology. As the Empress of Numerology, she combines numerology, astrology, and cardology with her intuitive gifts to provide personalized coaching to people who want to maximize their life cycles for lifelong achievement. Okay. She's not messing around. She has a successful record of transforming professionals and entrepreneurs into spirituality, masterful and compassionate bosses. Okay. So if that sounds like you, definitely hit her up at the end or even during this podcast. She's also the author of Knocking from the Inside, memoir veiled in numbers, numbers decoded, cards unfolded, and numbers spelled and cards dealt. Welcome, Jacquii, to the show. I'm so excited for you to be here.
Thank you, Lajoie. I'm so excited to be here with you. Thank you.
Yeah, it's gonna be a great show, I already know. So today I wanted to start off with the way that I was introduced to you, which was I think I saw you on YouTube talk about cardology, and we're gonna get more into that in a little bit. Because that was something that was new to me, didn't know it was a thing, and I actually accidentally did cardology. So we'll talk about that more later in the show. But first, I want to talk about Knocking from the Inside, a memoir veiled in numbers. And I just have to say, what kind of drew me to this book and you is the fact that you wrote this memoir that not just is about your experience, but also teaches people numerology at the same time, which is kind of like, for me, is kind of unheard of. You either get the textbook, right, about numerology that maybe you open up once or twice and then, you get back to over time. But you actually wrote a memoir that really allows people to dive into your own personal journey with numerology. So can you just tell us a little bit about that experience of writing the book? Because I feel like writing books, that is a transformation process within itself. So just let us know a little bit about what kind of empowered you to write this book, to write this memoir.
Wow, that's a good question. So I was working in the Department of Education for 17 years, like you said earlier, and came to a place of discontentment. I was in a relationship prior since 2010, I want to say to 2014, that really took me off my rocker. And I met somebody who was extremely brilliant, but also, and I hate to put labels on people, but what we would call today a textbook narcissist. And one of a malignant kind. And at the time, I didn't recognize what that was, because in our community, mental illness, as they call it, is not something that we really talk about or is prevalent. And coming from a Caribbean background, that's not something that we see. We're very open. We like you, we date. It's very simple in those relationships. But this relationship really took me out of my element because there was a feeling of deception. It was alluring
Mm.
at the same time. It
Right.
was exciting because it was mentally stimulating. It was isolating. It was nothing that I had ever experienced. And because it had all of those elements, it made me feel that when things went wrong, that I was the one that was contributing to it. Like something that I was doing, or I can do more, I can love him better, or I can show him through my love that we can work through these things, not really understanding that this is his personality and he was isolating me. And with that isolation, there were so many mind games that came with it, so much deceptions. And I don't want to give away a lot of what's written in the book, but he does something that violates me, violates my space, violates my
Mm.
way of
Mm-hmm.
being, violates my soul. And I had to understand what it was, why I was attracting somebody like that, and two, how to come out of it. Because oftentimes we go through these experiences in life, especially as women of color, and we internalize it. And so that calcifies in our body as dis-ease, as depression, overworking, getting multiple degrees because we always have to compensate, overcompensate for our perceived failures. And this time, I just wanted to get the answers. I wanted to figure it out because I knew that it couldn't just be me. And we have this way of saying, well, if you attracted him, something must be wrong with you. And I don't know that we need to judge each other and say that is something that's wrong, but looking at it as, if I am attracting it, what about me is attracting it? What is the lesson to be learned? How do I heal this? And so writing the book was important. And it wasn't even something that I wanted to do initially. When I left my
Mm-hmm.
job, I just wanted to sing. I was in music.
Mm.
And so I wanted
Mm-hmm.
to be a jazz singer. Still am doing that now, but that was the goal. I just want to go out and sing and make music and heal. And I used to write a lot of my own lyrics. I still do. And most of the lyrics were about that relationship. So it was a lot of sad songs, songs that allowed me to purge through and work through it. And people would always ask, well, how do you get to these lyrics? And I'm like, the story is so long. Like I would tell you bits and pieces of it, but it's my life. Like I would have to sit down and actually tell you the full story from beginning to end for you to get the full context. And so I put it in the book. I got a reading from one of my cousin's uncles, and he said, you're going to go away on a trip, and this trip is going to be very rewarding to you, and you're going to write your first book. He's like, so your music is not going to take off until you write your book. And I'm like, I don't have time to write a book. Like, I'm trying to get into this music thing. Like, I'm really trying to break new ground with this. I've been working on it for 13 years.
Right,
I
right.
don't have time to sit down and pen anything. And he was like, well,
Mm-hmm.
you have this gift, share it with the world. And I was like, you know
Mm-hmm.
what, you're right. And he told me, they're telling me to tell you right from the heart. That's all they gave me to tell you, right from the heart. And when they said that, I knew exactly what I had to write about. And so I wanted to write about this relationship, but I wanted to offer solutions because I knew that something, it was rooted in something spiritual. And I had learned numerology prior to that. And I was teaching it to my team in the Department of Education just so that we can get an idea of who we were as individuals and how we work together. And I just kept hearing pinnacles, talk about the pinnacles. And when I did the research and realized that I was in a lesson that was all about spirituality, and I was challenged with speaking my authentic truth, I was like, okay, so this is perfect. He was in my life to push me to get closer to my spiritual practice. And so all of the things that we experienced with the deception, the lies, the love, the hate, the jealousy, all of that, the thievery, that was designed for us to work through, for me to get onto the path that I am today. And so that encapsulated in small, I know we're going to go deeper, but that encapsulated in a smaller synopsis of how all of that happened and why I thought the numerology was important. We got to use these numbers to make sense of our lives, to know that it's all written and nothing is by chance and nothing is coincidental. And these are agreements and contracts that we make. And it's either we go through them with grace or we deny them and keep repeating that pattern. And I didn't want to keep repeating that same pattern.
That's the key. And actually, the last episode I talked to uh, another coach. We talked about these cycles, right? These cycles where, some of us are, I think, I don't want to say lucky, but no, I feel like some of us are programmed, after one or two times, maybe three, we're like, okay, let's to pivot. But then there's some of us who it's like 8, 9, you know, like it's like, and sometimes it's a lesson. Maybe it's like different lessons we need to learn. But sometimes it's like God keeps on telling us, what are you doing? I'm trying to, you know, and it's like sometimes it takes it till it's really bad for us to realize, oh, like what was I even thinking? Why was I, I was making these decisions that ultimately in, if you want to admit it or not, you were choosing to experience that over and over again, right? And
Mm-hmm.
that's, I know that's hard for some people to hear, but it's the truth at the end of the day. So, I mean, we don't want to give away too much of what happened in the book, right? What drew you to get that reading? Because that, it seems like that reading was really important in terms of you maybe even making that pivot from, I want to do music to, okay, let me write this book.
It was extremely important because at the time I was working at the department. I was running a department that was in charge of school openings, school closures, consolidations, and it was very political work.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're going
Mm-hmm.
into a lot of black and brown neighborhoods, and they are consolidating schools across neighborhoods. They're in the same district, school district, but geographically, you're trying to mix a school that's in Brownsville with a school that's in Crown Heights, and it's crazy. Like that's causing gang wars, that's causing all kinds of things that they don't really care about in terms of the community. And I don't live too far away from Crown Heights, and so seeing these children being disenfranchised, being displaced, started to get to me. And we have a lot of coworkers who would just sit there on their Blackberries. Well, at the time we had phones now, so they're sitting on their phones and they're just sending emails. They could care less about the human element and the human emotion involved. And I knew that that was the time for me to depart because I was too invested in the people to stay there and be true to who I was as a woman of color, to see that. And as the further up you go the ladder, the more you realize that you cannot affect the change. You can't be the change that you seek. You want to. It sounds sexy to be like, I'm going to go in there. I'm going to be idealistic. I'm going to affect change. But it's such a large bureaucracy, so many moving pieces, so many political interests at play that you're just one small cog in the wheel. And so it
Mm-hmm.
feels like the work that you're doing is for naught. And so when I got that reading, I had made up my mind that it was time for me to go. And I didn't know what I was going to do. But the fact that he said that you're going to take a trip, I was like, okay, I'm going to take a trip. I'm open to that. Because at the time I used to travel quite a bit. And so I'm like, all right, trips are good. Trips will help me to recenter. And so I got the reading and I understood what the mission was. And I went to eat with one of my girlfriends, and we decided we were going to go to Blue Moon on, I'm going to say Fulton Street in Fort Greene, and got there, and the restaurant was bumping. Like it was loud, it was lit. Like it was after work, Friday night, everybody was there having a good time. And I was like, she's not going to like this vibe. So let me move and go down to this Thai restaurant down the block where it's a little bit more peaceful. And I sat down by the window and I told her, I was like, I'm going to quit my job and I just want to go somewhere and write. I want to be someplace where there's water and I just want to write. And when I said that, a young lady sitting next to us and she heard the conversation and she's like, I'm hearing what you're saying and I don't mean to ear hustle. She's like, but I was working in the department as well and I left to do a residency. I called an artist residency. And she gave me the name of a site called Art Resis or Resis Art. I forget what it is now, but it's in the book. And she's like, I applied to these residencies and I just travel and I write. She was like, so you should find one. She gave me the website. And that same weekend I went, found a residency in Brazil, wrote up my application on the Sunday night, submitted it on the Monday when it was due and got accepted on the Tuesday. And I was like, okay, this is the universe telling me that this is exactly where you're supposed to be, doing exactly what you're supposed to do. So I've just been going with the flow ever since.
I love it. Yeah, that's the way to live. You said Brazil, right?
Brazil. Mm-hmm.
Where in Brazil did you go? I was recently like there, but
So I went to Ilhabela, Brazil. It is an island off of Sao Paulo, and I was there for a month.
okay. So you went to Brazil. You wrote your book. I mean, and real quick, I just want to like emphasize for those of y'all listening who are thinking about writing a book. or currently writing a book. I love that your one instruction was to just write from your heart, because I feel like when we, for a lot of people who weren't told in school that they were good writers, that's how I'm gonna put it, and then you try to tackle, right? Because at the end of the day, I think this is for a lot of us, this is the challenge, that we were never told we were good writers, and so when we get around when we start to write a book, we have to kind of tackle and overcome those limiting beliefs. But I love that you said right from the heart, right? This is a really great way to start writing and produce something that isn't, that is not just a good book, but something that you enjoy writing. So how was that process of writing the book? Um, you were writing it from your heart. So did you was it an emotional roller coaster? Like, was it, because you're also kind of reliving some of the stuff that happened. How was that process for you?
Oh, that's a great question. So when I got there, it was kind of slow at first, and things were taking a while to come because I was trying to find where to start. And so I started to write about the numbers. When I heard write about the pinnacles, I started to write the introduction and talk about the numbers and why I'm starting here. And while I was there, the woman who was in charge of the home that we were staying in, she gave me a book. It's called Agua de Viva. And that book is like a conscious stream of thought. The author
Mm,
just talks freely about what's going on in her mind. And I did not want to read any books because I didn't want to be influenced by anybody else's writing. I wanted it to come by me, completely through and from me. And she was like, no, I think you should read this book because this will open you up. And I was so happy that she gave me that book. I use it now when I teach my writing classes, because just having that conscious stream of thought, of allowing the thoughts, the emotions, and everything to come through in a very raw and visceral way, was what helped me to channel. And so once I read the book and allowed myself to be in the space, to be in the moment, and I wrote outside. What's beautiful about Brazil is that their homes have to be built around the natural vegetation. They can't cut down any of the mountains, any of the trees. So all of that is growing inside of the home. They have to build around it. And so I wrote outside every day because there were just rocks and mounds and grass and hummingbirds and parrots and everything around. And the water is right across. You can just walk down the hill 15 minutes and just be at the beach. And so just being in that environment allowed me to tap into source. And this was the best writing experience I've had to date. Like, I've written 2 books since then, but those books are more technical. But this one, because I was tapped into spirit, what it did was spirit took me back to the times when all of this happened and allowed me to sit in it. So I'm an observer of my life. I'm channeling it, but I'm observing it at the same time. So I'm hearing the conversations, I'm seeing the body language, I'm noticing things that I didn't notice when they were happening in the moment. It's like I'm outside of myself, having an out of body experience, viewing it again through objective eyes and being like, wow. And it was a pleasure every day to sit down and write it. Like, I would be excited, like, all right, so today I'm gonna get there and write about this part.
wow.
And there'll be moments when it
Hmm.
would come to me in the shower. I'll get like this beautiful line of language in the shower because water allows me to deck my downloads. And I would just repeat it in my head. And when I get out the shower, just write it down in my notebook and put notes next to it. Like, okay, when I get to 2010, I'm going to write about this one. When I get to 2015, I'm going to put this in. And so I would just do that every day, keep it by my bed. If I had a vision or something that came to me in my dreams, wake up, write it down, put the note next to it as to when it would go into the book. And I did that every day. It was good to have something to write with by hand, because at first I thought I didn't
Hmm.
need to write anything by hand. So I didn't even carry a notepad. I just had like my little sheets of paper with my goals that I had set out what I'm going to do each week. And so I had to go into the village and find a store that sold books and learn Portuguese. It was a
Hmm.
blessing to find a woman who was from the States who opened up a bookstore there, who made books from scratch, was able to speak to me in English. That was the only store where they spoke to me in English. So all of this
Right.
was God sent. So I found that store, bought the book, walked back up the hill,
Yeah.
and just took that. All my notes are right there. Like, I keep that book for me. Every time I write a book, I have that book there. That's like my, I don't know, it's like my keepsake from my first book. But I loved that experience because it was just so beautiful to channel and everything just flowed through. And so it was soothing and healing at the same time. So I wasn't, to answer your question about the emotions and having to relive the trauma, it didn't phase me the second time. Like it was good to get it out. It was good to get it out and tell it exactly as it happened. I didn't embellish, I didn't change anything. I just wanted it to be exactly as it happened.
I love that you, yeah, you emphasize you didn't embellish anything, you didn't change anything, like you just wrote it from this perspective of detachment, which is beautiful and very. But I want to say, I was gonna say it's difficult to do, but I don't think it is difficult when you are writing from that space, right? It like you said, it kind of flowed out of you, and so when you allow that flow to happen, um, it's like turning on the faucet and just letting the water run. Like it's pretty, it's like it can be like that. You have to be open to that, right? And I just want to say real quick, yeah, if you go to Brazil, they do not speak English. They will not try to learn English. You need to learn Portuguese. Like it's just like that's like the one country I went to. I was like, man, it was so hard to find people who spoke English. So when you find that one person, you like, okay, this is gonna be my one person to talk to. It's like, yeah, it's different. It's so different in Brazil. I love them for that. I love them for that because they're like, nah, I don't speak any English. Like,
They don't. They could care less. They're like, nah, you got to learn that. Sorry.
right. They don't even. It was, yeah, I love Brazil because that was a huge, a traveler of like 4 years at that point, and then going to Brazil, that was a whole thing, that was a whole experience, but I love it, I love it because it really empowers you to be immersed in their culture because their language is just a big part of their culture. And yeah, it's really beautiful. I love Brazil. So writing this book in a Brazil, in a foreign country, and I'm sure actually the fact that you didn't have many people to talk to was probably a really great space to be in to write a book, right? This is probably another thing
Mm-hmm.
that allowed you to focus on the book. But I want to talk about the numerology aspect. So when you wrote the book, how was the process of including numerology? How did that come into fruition? Did it just flow, or did you start to connect the dots? Like, what was that like?
So it flowed because I was using it and learning it prior to. Like I was using it with my team before I quit. And so I was working through the numbers and understanding what the personal year vibrations are. And so just to let people know, the pinnacles, I spoke about that earlier. The pinnacle cycles are the lessons and challenges that we have over life. And so there are 4 cycles that we go through from the time of birth to the time that we're dying. And it's tied to your life path number. So everybody knows what their life path number is, and they think that that's the greatest thing. Like, oh, my life path number is
Mm-hmm.
this. But we don't achieve our life path number until we're 81. And the way that we achieve our life path number is to go through these lessons and challenges. But if you're not aware of it, how do you know that if you're repeating these patterns? And so within a pinnacle cycle, you have 9 years. Some of them are longer than 9 years, but the second and third one lasts for 9 years. I was in my second cycle, so it was a 9 year cycle. And within those 9 years, you have personal years. So you have personal years from 1 through 9, and each one of those numbers has a vibration. So if you think about it, your personal years are the lessons that you learn each one of the years so that you can learn the lesson of the pinnacle. The pinnacle allows you to learn the lesson of the life path number. So there are tiers within this. So what I did was I have these pinnacle for 9 years, and so I broke each chapter up or each part of the book up into 9 years. And then I spoke about the personal year vibration for that year. So, example, if I was in a personal year 1 and I spoke about those events, they all played back to the fact that I was starting brand new, either new relationships, new job, moving into a
Mm-hmm.
new home. And one is the vibration of new, of starting something from
Mm-hmm.
scratch. And so in personal year 2, things are slow, things are under the surface, things aren't really moving. And I might have people moving into my home or out of my home. So in that part of the book, my brother may have moved in at that time and moved back out because family members move in and out during a 2 cycle. But nothing is really happening because I planted the seeds, but they're germinating. In a 2 cycle, things may happen that you don't really see behind. You don't really see it because it's veiled by the moon. 2 is ruled by the moon, so it's covered, it's veiled. So if I'm in a 7 personal cycle, personal year cycle is all about spirituality. So that would be the chapter where I'm really delving into my spiritual practice, learning how to burn candles, learning how to take spiritual baths. So all of that happened. So I was able to see when I was writing out the events, like, oh shoot, like this really matches up to the numbers. Like the numbers do tell you what vibration you're going to be under and what you're going to be going through. And so that was amazing to see, like, wow, all this time we've been floating through life thinking that things are just happening coincidentally, but the numbers are telling us every single year based on our birthday what it is we're experiencing and what to expect to some degree.
I love that perspective too, because one of the biggest mindset shifts that you need with transformation is to realize that life is happening maybe for me or from
Mm-hmm.
me, right? And so I love your connection with this, with numerology, to really empower you to really see that, hey, no, life's not happening to you. This is planned, you know. Let's and you can actually see that through the numerology. Whereas I think, is, you know, if a coach who doesn't do numerology or any of that, they can't really tell you that, right? They
Yeah.
can't really like give you the specifics.
They don't tell you that. And that's crazy because, like you said, how life is happening for me. We fall into that victim mentality. Like, why is this happening to me? But we are co creators of this
Mm-hmm.
experience. And so that's why I can speak to you now and not hold any malice in my heart, because I have accepted the fact that this is a contract that he and I made.
Mm-hmm.
And so prior to us coming and incarnating into this life, we have agreements that we make with certain people. I'm going to come back as this, you're going to come back as that, and we're going to work through our past life karma in this ways. And so the way that we work through it depends on how we deal with it. Do you deal with it with grace? Or are you still going to blame the other person for the experience when it's a joint collective experience? We decided we were going to do this together. So he played his part.
Mm-hmm.
I can't be mad at him. He played his
Mm-hmm.
part. And he got me to the result that I think my soul is happy with, the evolution of me getting onto this path and understanding me, getting closer to self, which is why I call the book, partly why I call the book Knocking from the Inside, because I had to get out of my own way. I was trapped within my body, thinking that the job was important, my titles were important, the car that I drove was important, my clothes were so important. Like the way that I was outwardly facing the world was my stamp, whereas it's all inside of me. So now I challenge my students who study with me: strip yourself of everything. Take away your title, take away the job, take away your relationship, even take away motherhood, because a lot of women hide behind the cloak of motherhood. In the absence of all of that, who are you? Who are you in the absence of all of that? And don't lead with, oh, I'm a doctor, or I'm a lawyer, or I'm an executive. Take all of that away. Who are you in the absence of all of that? And people are stumped.
That's so interesting, because I think when I was first asked that question, who am I? It was actually in college. Um, and we were kind of encouraged to list out actually all of the identities that were put onto us, right? So whether it's, I guess in my case, a sister, a daughter, a woman, a black woman. I guess at the time I was studying biology, a biology major. Like, what you're saying is like that's not who we are.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, then who am I? Like, hold on, you know, like, I think a lot of people be stumped with that question, right? Like they're like, wait, what's going on? I mean, for me, what comes to mind is a baby. I think at that point, if I'm really gonna get rid of everything, you know, it takes you back to that moment where you're first born, right? Is
Mm-hmm.
that the answer? Like, I don't know, like,
The answer is what you want it to be, but I like the fact that you said you're a baby, because that means that you're still learning and exploring, and you're still brand new. You're still experiencing the world through the eyes of innocence, through the eyes of purity. And that's how children approach the world, through joy like wonder and adventure. And so that's beautiful that you say that, because you travel a lot, and that is a big crux of who you are. And so every time you go to a new place, it is an adventure. You are learning something brand new. You are learning the people, the cultures. And so you're reinventing yourself. Yes, absolutely. The baby is beautiful, but people can make that connection and not say, oh, well, she's a baby, that means she hasn't evolved. No, We have to look at the purity and the wisdom children have. People are just so superficial with it these days, but
When it comes to like that baby mentality, I feel like not mentality, but I think once people start to see themselves from that perspective of kind of, I guess, not how I want to put this, like getting rid of the weight of adulthood. I think like we're taught all this time to, especially when we start to undo our traumas and stuff like that and stuff that we've been through, like we're taught to see it through a lens of, oh, you're an adult, so you're responsible. And I think it really helps when you start to change your mindset around that. And it's like, okay, what if you weren't 20 something, 30 something when this happened? What if you were a kid? What would you say to a kid? You wouldn't tell them, oh, this is your fault, right? You would have a completely different mentality around it, right? And so it's really important to see that, to recognize that I think at the end of the day, we're not adults. We're all just like children. And when you get to the psychology of it, it's like a lot of the stuff, a lot of the habits that we've learned that actually get us stuck in different situations, it's stuff that we learned when we were kids. So we're really just we're in these adult bodies, but we're still coming from that space of that kid mentality. So okay, so you mentioned a lot of stuff about numerology. So pinnacles, life path numbers, and you said your year, right? Your
yep,
is it based off of your age? Yeah. What is that? Can you explain more?
it's based off of your birthday.
Okay.
It's based off of your birthday. So what's your birthday?
March 4th, 1994.
Get started on your wellness journey today. Whether you are starting your wellness journey in the middle of it or finishing it, this library will help you so much on how to jumpstart your wellness. And really, it has so much more than that. It has full guides on how to quantum leap, full guides on how to manifest, and even my personal favorite, coloring books. Yes, and I'm talking unique coloring books. Y'all already know who you're dealing with, okay? We have baobab coloring books, cactus plant coloring books, and so much more. And it's completely free. So please make sure to check it out, especially if you're on your wellness journey, or if you know a friend who is on the wellness journey and wants some free resources, please let them know about the wellness library, okay? The link is in the show notes below. I love y'all so much. Let's get back to the show.
Oh, March 4th. So you're in a 6 personal year. So what I'm doing, I'm adding your month, March 3, to your day 4, 7, and we're in a 2024. So when I reduce that, 2 plus 2 is 4, 4 plus 4 is 8. We're in an 8 universal year. And so 7 plus 8 is 15. And so you're in a 6. So you're in a 6 personal year this year. So this year for you is all about learning, possibly going back to school, not necessarily in a formal sense, but learning something new. 6 wants to build community. And
Yeah.
so you are this year focusing on
Hmm.
community, moving into or out of a home, but finding your tribe, people of like mind that you could nurture, build, and love upon. But 6s just want to be loved. They want to have people around them that they can take care of.
Hmm.
And so this is the year that you will focus heavily on that. If you're interested in being married, this could be a year that you could marry or have children or stuff like that, because 6 is all about bringing life into the world.
Mm.
And so 6, I think, always about community. That's the first thing that comes up. It's healing and it's community. And so those would be the two focuses of the year for you, healing and community. But this is also a good 6 vibration because it's a 15, and that's the number of money, gifts, and favors. And so people this year would want to shower you with their love and affections by offering you gifts. And so when people offer you things, receive it, because that is one, opening up your receptivity and your femininity to just be willing to take on, and it will open up your pineal gland and have you receive more downloads. But it's also just allowing the flow of the universe. Oftentimes we give, especially women of color, we want to give and give and give. And when people try to give us, we deny it and we block our blessings, but we also maintain a very manly, masculine, aggressive stance when we say, oh, no, I'm good. I got it. You don't have to have it. And so my message to you is just receive with love. Thank you. Much gratitude, and feel no way about it, because that's the universe blessing you with those gifts and favors.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean it's crazy because before this year, like community was not in my brain at all. Like when not at all. It was really crazy. Like and this is like a lot of stuff that I have to do, and a lot of like mindset and limiting beliefs that I had from when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
Because I really, when we think about community, we think about, well, I guess for me, I was taught the extroverted person who has all the
Yep.
friends. I'm very introverted, and like my circle is very small. So like, coming from this perspective, I never saw myself as a community leader. And then the idea was kind of just proposed to me like this past couple of months actually. And I was like, okay, so I'm playing with the idea of, building community and what that looks like. And then being in a community has become way more important for me now.
Right.
Like I realized, I traveled for the past 4.5 years. And so, I've dove into different aspects of my life and different aspects of me that I love, and really pouring into my self love, pouring into prioritizing my happiness. And this year I was like, wait, I think I'm missing community. This is like the
Mm-hmm.
one thing that I really, that I'm really like looking for. And it's part of the reason why I haven't moved yet, because I'm trying to figure out where that's gonna be. That's like so
Yep.
on point. Yeah, I didn't even like, yeah. That's like really crazy, because again, something I had not even thought about before, right? When it came to building my little, not little, but my little empire, my business, my brand, I never even thought
Right.
about community until this year. It's really crazy. Yeah. So very, very accurate. So, okay, cool. So now the audience, they know how to get sorry, it's your annual number.
It's the personal year number.
Personal year. Okay. So that's a little bit about numerology. I know a lot of people, yeah, we do the life path too. I've watched so many YouTube videos on my last life path number.
It's crazy,
But
right?
it's just, yeah, it's crazy. And then it's general too. It's like, it's a good tool, right? But when it comes to digging deeper, seeing how to master those lessons,
Mm-hmm.
figuring out what the lessons are, so you can be like, okay, let's do this quick. Like, cause I'm all about efficiency. I love efficiency. So like, if I can go from learning the lesson in like in taking a whole year to learn a lesson versus learning it in a couple of months, like I'm all for it. And that's where, like, I think working with you, Jacquie, is really going to help a lot of people, because now they're like, oh, that's the lesson I need to learn. Great, let me just do this real quick. It's easy lesson, right? They're not easy, but depending on the mindset.
Right. Because you said something that's very key. You said I love efficiency. And the reason why you love efficiency is because you're born on the 4th of the month. 4 is the number of organization, discipline, efficiency. 4s put systems in places. So when you come into things, you're like, okay, what's going on? How's this working? You're looking, you're observing, you're seeing how things run, and you are finding the most efficient and streamlined way to recreate it. 4s are not necessarily people who create things from scratch, but they look at what's there and they revolutionize it. They're like, there's an easier way for us to do this. And so that is what your role is. And so you like structure, order, and discipline. You do not waste your money. You do not spend it on frivolous things. You like to save and conserve because you know about restrictions. And 4s are all about using their money wisely to build upon something for the future.
Yeah, exactly.
But you also like odd and unusual people. Odd and unusual people, odd and unusual things. You gravitate to things that are unconventional. So when you say that you're looking for your community, but you have to find the right place, yeah, you got to find the right place of people who allow you to be your naturally quirky
Mm-hmm.
self. And so, yes, community is very important because you need to feel accepted in the community that you want to be upon, live upon, work with. So yeah, you speak it, we speak it, and we don't even realize that we're speaking who we are. So when people say that my life path number means a lot, your birthday number means more than your life path, because your birthday number is who you are. Those are the gifts and talents that you brought into the world with you from previous lives. So when you want to find out who somebody is that's off rip, find out what their birthday number is. And you'll be able to tell based on the characteristics of that number who that individual.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you just hit it right on the nail. Like, this is the year also where I'm learning a lot more. I mean, I spent last year learning too, but it's like my mindset has changed. I'm looking at, tapping into the memberships and courses. And that's the first thing I do. I'm looking at, okay, what do I like? What do I don't like? And how am I going to do it different so that my audience doesn't have to feel this? Like, this is very much like, yeah, you hit it right on the nail. Like, it's very interesting because again, it's a shift, right? Like, I wasn't necessarily like this last year, but I think now that I'm thinking about community, I think now I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do it different, and we're gonna do it efficiently, and we're gonna do it with a little bit more. Like, I love to give. That's another big aspect of who I am. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so I try to figure out, like, okay, they're doing it this way, how can I do it differently so we can just give a little bit more. But yeah, you hit it right on the nail. But I love that you said the birthday is more important. That's something I didn't know previously. Again, I'm coming from a background of general knowledge, like kind of surface level knowledge of numerology, a little bit deeper with
Mm-hmm.
astrology. But I didn't know that the birthday is more important. Why is that than the life path?
Because your birthday is who you are. It's who you is what you're working with right now, the tools and gifts and abilities that you have at your disposal at this very moment. Like I said before, like you're bringing it in from a past life, so you don't have to learn those things again. Whereas your life path number, you have to learn that. That is what you are learning over the full course of your life. And that life path number is assisting you with fulfilling and completing your destiny, which is your name. So your birthday, the gifts and
Okay.
talents that you have right now, your life path is what you're learning to be, and it's helping you to fulfill your name, which is your destiny and life's purpose.
Yeah, I mean that. Yeah, it's so accurate. I have to say that. Like, I love the way you explain it, Jacquie. Because, like
Thank
I
you.
said, like I've watched the videos, but you say it so eloquently, and you say it like effortlessly. Like, I don't know, it all makes sense the way you're explaining it. Yeah, it's just like, yeah, it's like, I don't know how you. It's like you're painting a, how do you say, not, I want to say painting a picture, but like, it's like, those like art tutorials. I feel like that's what you're giving right now with this numerology explanation. Like, you're explaining it step by step, and it's so clear the way you explain it. So I really appreciate it. I really, really appreciate it. And I love it, because actually one thing that,
Oh, thank you. That's what I
yeah,
do.
and girl, you're doing it well. It's like one thing that I do, as a host, I have to explain everything, but the way you're explaining it, I don't have to. I think everybody will understand, what you just said, and where you're coming from. And then, so I love you got to the name. Okay, so in a previous episode, actually the first episode of the show, we talked about a little bit about the transformative power of a name. The guest that I
Mm-hmm.
was interviewing, she was talking about how she actually changed her name 3 times in her life.
Mm-hmm.
Can we just talk a little bit about that, about the name, and how powerful it is? Yeah, just real quick.
I love talking about the name. I could talk about the name from now till the cows come home from grazing. The name is our life's purpose. People don't understand how important a name is. Whatever you want to become in this lifetime, you can do so with your name. Understand that the name that you have at birth, though, is the ultimate contract. That is the contract that you made with the universe. So even if you change your birth name, your legal name, you will have to live out the lessons that are tied to your birth name. The name that you take on will help you modify that vibration
Okay.
and enhance it, but you cannot escape the destiny of your birth name. So I like the fact that she said she changed her name 3 times, because I'm pretty sure for each one of those times she was doing something different.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I wanted to be a doctor or a really good lawyer, I would change my name to the vibration of a 1. If I wanted to be a damn good singer, I would change my name to the vibration of a 3 or a 6. And I would find the best number, 3 or 6, because not all threes are the same. Like if I wanted to be like a Rachel Farrell, who's my idol, I would change my name to a 21-3, because her range is crazy. If I wanted to be somebody who was like a good scientist, I would change my name to a 7, which my name is a 7. So very analytical
Mm-hmm.
mind, great writers with
Mm-hmm.
7s. And so you have to think about what you want to do and match that name vibration with what it is that you want. So find the number and change your name to that number, but just make sure that that number is a positive one, because all of these numbers have negative aspects and positive aspects. So you want to make sure that you have a number that's working for you and not against you.
That's that's so cool. I'm sorry, it's like a really cool concept, because so I mean, me, I'm a MG, right? So I have all these ideas, all these things I want to accomplish, and our manifesting generator, for those who don't know, is okay. I was like, I think she would know. I think Jacquie. But anyway, so it's kind of cool, because it's like, oh, if I want to be a writer, I'm gonna change my name like this. And then if I want to be like a musician, I'm gonna change my name like this. Like, it's kind of fun in a way, right? You can have all of these different ways of changing your name to really become the optimal version of
Mm-hmm.
that of yourself, I guess, or of that version of yourself, if that makes sense.
Makes perfect sense. And I did your name, Lajoie, and it comes up to a 7, which is great because it makes perfect sense. Our name is our life's purpose, but it's the way that we express ourselves. And so, because your name is a 7, it makes perfect sense. I knew that you had a 7 somewhere in your chart when you said that you travel a lot. 7s want to travel the world and go to exotic places. And when they get there, they're not interested in going to see the sightseeing and landmarks and all that. They're like, no, I want to live and be among the people. I want to
Yeah.
see what's going on in the environment, in these people's towns. I want to get to know them on a first name basis. I'm interested in what's going on in this town and the people that are there. And while you're there, you want to write, you want to meditate, you just want to be in peace and quiet while you're there, because that's the nature of a 7. But your 7 is great because it is protected spiritually. Not only is it psychic and it has downloads and it understands the occult more so than you probably give yourself credit for, but it's also protected from black magic.
Mm.
And so you have the 25-7 as your first name. So that's a good vibration of the 7 to have, because not all 7s are protected by black magic, but you are with that 25. And so it's good to have that knowledge, because it's like, okay, now I see why I have to jet set and go here and go there, because 7s need to be immersed in cultural environments. So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, but that's the challenge. Yeah, anyways, it's really funny because like this past, because the eclipse kind of highlighted a lot of things for me, and I'm sure for you too, right? The eclipse was like the energy was like you couldn't force your will. You really had to like let go. Like it
right.
was, yeah, it was this whole thing. I was like, I'm gonna meditate all day, and then I got like I think 2 hours in, and I was like, okay, no, I'm gonna let go. We gonna let go. I was like, this is not happening. My energy is not. My body is like, we are not meditating. This is not. Mm-mm. It was crazy. But anyway, but one of the epiphanies I had was that I was like, girl, what if we? I was trying to plan to move back to the States. And I think, again, if the community is there, it's possible. But when I really thought about it, I was like, what, no, what are we doing? This is not it. Like, I had this epiphany. I was like trying
Mm-hmm.
to manifest it. God was like, no, you're not going to, this ain't going to happen. This isn't the place for you. Or maybe, again, maybe there is a place, but like for right now, but that was an epiphany I had. I was just like, girl, yeah, no, this is not, I'm trying to force something that's just not, it's not going to happen.
Right. Right.
I love it because what you just said, reading my name, it gives me confidence, right? Whereas I think, the system, society does a really good job of placing doubt in who we are and
Mm-hmm.
how we want to live our lives, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I love
Mm-hmm.
that reading is so important. Get your name, get the numerology of your name read, because then you can be more confident in who you kind of know you are. But again, if you're one of those people really challenged by doubt and I don't want to say challenged by doubt, but really allowing doubt to come into your life, which is probably all of us, and some, in some aspects, one
All of
aspect or
us.
another, right?
Yep.
Uh, do that. Learn more about like the power of your name. But one thing I want to say real quick, this kind of came up. If you have a name that, because you said the name that you're born with is super important.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing about numerology, it's not necessarily in the name; it's like the numbers, right? But do you have anything to say about people who are born with a name that they really don't like?
Yeah, I do. It's interesting. My name is a conventional name. My name is Jacqueline Noel Levine, and I write about that in the book. I changed my name, and I legally changed it.
Mm,
And so you can't escape the fate of your birth name, but you can take on another name. So she can change her name. A name has more power the more it's called and by the most people that it's called by. And so when we think about celebrities, and I always use this example in my class when I teach, you think about people like Jay-Z when he's in a concert and he has everybody screaming, Hova,
mm,
Hova, Hova, and you have a stadium of 50,000 people saying Hova at the same time. What they are doing is putting the vibration of that name into the universe and manifesting it for him.
I know today's guest has you filled with questions, but don't worry. You're going to have a chance to sit in this seat on August 15th, 2024 at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to have our first live Q&A where you get to ask the questions to a previous guest. Make sure to click on the notification bell, subscribe to the YouTube channel so y'all can be the first to know, because it's going to be first come, first serve, okay? I'll see y'all there. Peace.
And Hova is one of those numbers that is very favorable and very lucky for the future. And so people know how to use these energies. So she can change her name to something else, but she just has to make sure that everybody calls her by that name and that it's reflected on all of her documentation and that she's using it all of the time so that it can take on its own power, its own potency. Because the name generally takes about some months to kick in. Like you won't feel it immediately, but it's a drastic shift when you do have a change. My name originally was a 7. It still is a 7, but I used to spell Jacquie I-E. My mother used to spell it I-E, and I changed it legally to I-I. When it was I-E, I was under the vibration of a 30. Threes talk a lot, and with a 30, I was talking nonstop. Like I could not hold water. Like you tell me something, like I'm telling your secrets, I'm telling your business, and it's not because I wanted to, but because I just couldn't. It was so compulsive. I couldn't stop myself from doing it. And I was very mixy and out and about and having a good time and partying and just being loud. And then when I changed my name to I with the 7, very quiet, very reserved. I'm sitting in the club. I'm happy to be in the club, but I don't necessarily need to be on the dance floor. Like I'm happy observing people and how they're moving. I'm not speaking at all unless you ask me a question. Like I'm very reserved in terms of how I come into a room. I don't just come in and introduce myself. I lean back to see who everybody is and who assess. And you do the same because your name is the same vibration. Assess who's in the room and who I want to fraternize with and who I don't want to fraternize with. And so it changes. The vibrations change. And so people were like, well, what happened? Like you're getting stuck up. No. And I didn't understand. I changed my name. So I changed my whole way of being, my whole purpose.
Real quick, I want to get back to the Jay-Z thing you just said because we gonna get into it. Because there's a lot of connections to that moment that you just described, right? People are saying Hova. I mean, because it even reminds me of a church, right? People do something similar in a church where you're praising God or the religion or whatever you're practicing. Are people? Is it an energy exchange, or are people giving away their energy? Like,
that's a great question. Is it it is an energy exchange. It is. It's an exchange on his part. The exchange is, I won't say minimal, but the people are they're feeding him. The people are feeding him. When they say his name, they are giving them his energy. They're giving him their energy. And so that is his way of, one, like I said, manifesting, but also pulling from them to help him manifest what he wants. He is exchanging his energy in terms of what he's sharing, right? His gifts, his knowledge, whatever. He's rapping on stage. That's his exchange. But the people are generally feeding him when they are saying his name out like that. And so it's really more beneficial to him to have everybody calling his name at the same time. And none of that is done like it's no coincidence. Like that's not done coincidentally. Like that's all done by design, because normally when they're doing that, they're throwing up the delta sign at the same time. So they are affecting change and manifesting at the same time.
Yeah, that's one thing that I've become more and more aware of is there's no coincidences. This is one thing that I I think it's a really good awareness to have. I think everybody should have that awareness. But yeah, there's no such thing as a coincidence. This is like at this point, people can hop on board with this understanding. No. Come on now, especially with movies, entertainment. Like anyway,
exactly.
Yeah. I was like, I don't want to go down the rabbit hole. I think everybody listening knows, we know what's up.
We're gonna be stuck.
Right.
We're gonna get stuck.
Um, the one thing that came to mind was, okay, so if you had an audience in front of you, how could you manipulate it so they pour back into themselves instead of pouring to the person on stage?
That's a great question.
Just curious.
That audience would have to be ultra aware of their intentions going into that concert, because they have to know, what is it that I'm looking for? What am I aiming to get as a result of this? I still think, as a performer myself, the onus is on us to provide that for the people who come to see us. And so, like, now I had to repurpose my music in terms of knowing that I wanted to put different frequencies in the music so that people are exposed to higher vibrations, changing the lyrics in the music so that people are able to feed off of something that's light and not something that's dark. And so it's really on us to make sure that we're putting out the energy so that people can consume it, and then people having the discernment to allow and block. Because if certain things are not right, you need to block off your aura, wearing certain crystals that will, one, absorb the light and repel the dark. So we really, as consumers, have to be mindful of what our intentions are going into a space to be a part of somebody's experience. And if it doesn't feel right, get out. Get out. Like, if you go to a concert or a venue and the vibe isn't right, or the chanting something that doesn't resonate with you, or the lighting is off, or leave. Don't subject yourself to it if you have the wherewithal to leave. Because even thinking about that whole Travis Scott situation that happened some summers ago, with all those people that were there not even ritualizing that they were taking part in a collective ritual, like, you got to know what it is that you're going there for.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, but unfortunately, it's kids. I don't care if they're 20 something. It's kids. But I want to get into cardology. We have to get into cardology because we know a lot of people listening know about numerology, know about astrology,
Yes.
don't know
Yes,
about
yes.
cardology. And my accidental cardology happened when I first traveled. It was during COVID, and I was in Mexico, and I wanted to do tarot card readings. And the only thing I had with me was a deck of normal cards, and so I didn't realize what I was doing. I was like,
Right.
use this instead. And I was doing all these readings, and they were really accurate. And I was like, what is going on? And 4 years later, I learned through you actually about cardology. So what is cardology? Yeah, kind of dive into like what it is, how is it different from numerology, and why is it so accurate? Because like I said, when I was doing it, I thought it was just another tarot reading, but no, it's been completely different.
Yes, I love cardology. Cardology is a bit more complicated than numerology. It combines numerology and the playing cards. So the playing deck, from the ace to the kings, all 52 cards, each one of these cards represents a birthday. And so when you look at your birthday, you have a card assigned to you. It's like your sun sign is your birth card. And so
Okay.
your card is the six of spades. And so when we look at the birthdays, we have the hearts, which are the babies of humanity. We have the clubs, which are the teenagers of humanity. We have the diamonds, which are the adults, and the spades, which are the seniors. And so you are a senior. And it's just talking about the evolution of the soul and what they've gone through. And so what we do is we look at the person's birth card, and they have 12 cards assigned to them in addition to their birth card that are aligned to the planets. And so you have your Mercury card, your Venus, your Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, your reward, your cosmic lesson, your cosmic moon, and your transformation. So for 13 years of your life, you're in a different vibration of the card. And that card could represent the energy of what that card means, or it could represent a person in your life. And so looking at the cards, it tells you, okay, in this particular season that I'm in, I'm going to learn, if I have the six of spades, like your card, all about fate and destiny and things that are fated to happen. Six is a very slow moving energy. So things that will happen in this season are not going to be quick. It's going to take some time to develop and mature. And so during that time, I know that I can be challenged by a specific card. I wish I had the spreads up so I can show you. But just know that with the Six of Spades, you are someone who's all about fairness and balance and wisdom and nurturing and healing. All of that is a vibration of the six, being responsible. And because you're a spade, it's about the work, it's about your health. And so you're very concerned with people on a spiritual level because of that spade, but also about working and helping with people in a way that's fated. And so you are very intentional about the relationships that you form because you know that this is something that's going to be for the long haul. You don't want superficial relationships at all. You want people who are around to help you build because six is justice, fairness, equity. We have to do something that represents me and you. I have to be satisfied. You have to be satisfied. But we're going to be here together for a minute, so it just needs to be symbiotic. And so when we look at the cards that we are dealt, some of us have easier paths than others, but it depends on how you play your cards. And every year, you have a different set of cards. Most of us move around the board. Some of us don't move. The King of Spades stays stationary. People who are Eight of Clubs, they stay stationary. Jack of Hearts, they stay stationary. That means that they don't get to experience other people's life path. The rest of us that move it around, we do. So certain times you may be sitting in my house, the Ace of Diamonds, so you may feel what it's like to be an Ace of Diamonds, somebody who's constantly consumed with love or money or manifesting. And so you may see, ooh, I had that experience. And I can empathize with you because I know that I've gone through that path. I can sit in your house a year, which I am. I'm sitting in your Six of Spades house for 7 years. And so I know that it is a very slow manifesting energy. But everything that has happened in these past 7 years have been fated. And so I understand that. And so just experiencing the different energies, it helps us to navigate. And I think it's more holistic than numerology in the way that you get to see who the players are easier because you get to.
This farm isn't just any farm. It grows for Juice Plus. Juice Plus is farm-to-capsule nutrition made from 30 different non-GMO fruits, vegetables, and berries. Harvested at peak goodness to make nutrient-rich plant powders in convenient capsules. Clinically proven for over 20 years to support your wellness. And makes it easy to help bridge the gap between what you should eat and do eat. Fruits and vegetables are always on the table with Juice Plus. Juice Plus. Goodness is our natural state.
To see other people's birthday and how they are either supporting you or challenging you. Each one of these cards has a supporting karma card or a challenging karma card. And sometimes people are sitting in a supporting position where they are cheering you on. It's like, hey, go ahead, Lajoie. And other times they're in a challenging position where they are getting on your damn nerves and forcing you to evolve into something bigger and better. And you're like, but damn, why I got to keep going through this with you? But you don't, you see, they're right in that spread. Like, there they are. They're challenging you right now. And so it's good to know that and good to see that because you can see a person's your relationship that way. You can see bosses that way. You can see basically everything. You can do your name and translate it into the cards. So the cards tell a full story that I would have to show you a visual to really break it down. But I love that. And I do that in the book too, in my memoir. I use numerology, astrology, and cardology to explain everything that happened, just to triangulate the data to show that 3 different sources say the same thing. So what I'm saying is the truth.
Yeah. So it seems like cardology is really good in terms of like interactions with other people. And I love that you said who challenges you. I love that. I want to talk about this challenge part real quick.
Yep.
Because we all know who, you know, people who are in harmony with us, people who challenge us. So if there's a type of person who continuously comes into your life to challenge you, is it a challenge to overcome? Is it a challenge to just experience? Like,
Yeah, I do understand what you mean. Your lifetime challenge cards are 9 of spades. Your supporting is a 2 of spades. Your challenging is a 9 of spades. And so I don't know if you know anybody who is a 9 of spades, but what happens with the challenging karma card is that 1 year it challenges you, and the next year when you move to the next plate, you are sitting in its house. So the card that was challenging you is now supporting you. And so it doesn't challenge you all the time, it moves. And so the first year it's going to challenge you, and then you move to the second plate, it's going to support. And so you're going to see a shift in that dynamic. But again, it's how you deal with the energy. Cards that are in your life spread are going to challenge you for life.
okay.
Like,
Okay.
So yours is the nine of spade, mine is the two of diamonds. So when I have two of diamonds people, I know that automatically we're gonna get along, but sometimes we're gonna butt heads, and I know that we're gonna have this riff, and they always come around. But what I do in terms of dealing with the challenges is that people who are challenging you, you owe them some sort of karma, and so I try to pay that in some type of way. Like my challenge and karma card in the book is a two of diamonds, but in the book she was the one who moved in with me and stayed with me for a little while. And I didn't know her that well. And it wasn't even like a deep conversation. I was just like, all right, you in between places, come stay with me. I have a spare room. Not realizing that at that time that she was my challenge and karma card and that I owed her that. And so if you kind of just go with the vibration of owing and understanding the karma and just giving what you can to that challenging karma card, next time around, they're going to support you. So just understanding how to use the energies. Challenges are always there to make us better. So whenever we have a challenge, don't think of it as this person is there to do this to me on purpose. They're there for you to evolve.
Thank you. I love that perspective too. Yeah, exactly. They're there to help you grow. They're there to help you get closer to that lesson that you need to learn. Yeah, I mean, I've always tried to have that perspective, and obviously, like a reading will help you clarify what the lesson is, so you don't have to get into that loop, right?
Mm-hmm.
Over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
That's the key. That's the key that we all want, right? We want
Exactly.
us to
That's the key.
stop cycling like this, or spiraling down.
It's interesting too because you're challenging karma card, but that nine of spades, your challenge is to learn how to allow things to go. Nine of spades is the card of death and rebirth, and so allowing things to go through its cycle and just letting things go and letting it evolve into something brand new. That's going to be a challenge, and so be mindful of that. I was just came out of a nine of spades relationship, and we always had to find different ways to evolve so that we can keep it together. Because nine of spades just wants to run; it just wants to end things. We're like, all right, we're done. But we had to constantly put the work in, and spades is work, and you're a spade, so you're constantly in the drudgery of life. Like things are not easy for spades. There's not too many spades and not too many hearts. But when the spade, you don't really have time to play games. You didn't really come here for the games.
Yeah, and you know what? It's like, girl.
You ain't.
Yeah, that's one. I mean, it was cool. I had like one moment where I did the opposite of that, and I was like, for this month, I'm gonna go out every single day, and I did that. I did it. I had fun. I focused on just having fun for 1 month, and then after that, I was like, oh my god, like I was
Yep,
like,
I
I
got
can't
so
be
much
hungover.
work to do.
I was like, no, yeah, I can't. And even now, like it's not even an age thing. That's the other thing too. It's not an age thing. It's literally just like, look, I just don't see the point. And it's like what helps me is having other people, probably other spades in my life who also understand. Yeah, like I'd rather drink a glass of wine than go hammer a whole bottle of liquor. Like it's just like like it's like you just meet the people who resonate with you, and then that allows me to really
Exactly.
again have more confidence in who I am and love that part of me. But yeah, it's like that aspect of it is like the partying thing. I was never like a really big partier because I was just like, I'm gonna be hungover tomorrow and then I can't do anything. And it's I always had that, yeah, that which sucks. It like it sucks, but I think over time I've gotten better at being open and letting go,
Just
right? But
accepting
it's
it. Yeah.
yeah. And like if I'm with a group of friends or they just want to have fun, I tell myself like, okay, I have I can decide to go or I can stay. And if I stay, then that's what we're gonna do. And but it's fine. Like I just have to learn the balance, right? The balance of it, and I guess really my balance of it, right? It's not gonna be. I'm not gonna be going out every single weekend. It's just, yeah. Old soul, old soul. That's what
Old soul. Yep. Yep.
yeah.
Old soul, and with your card and your birthday number, because fours, you guys are loners. You don't really like all that mixy stuff. Like you have the patience for it. You could do it, but not every day.
Right, exactly. I need to have my alone time. I need to. Oh my god. I'm definitely gonna invite you on again because I feel like we can talk for
Yeah. I don't think we touched the surface. We just basically cleaned it.
little rest.
I'm like, where did the time go? For real?
Right. So I'm definitely gonna be inviting you on the show again. But for all the people that I interview, I always have to ask this question. It's transformation to expansion. I don't even want to say we dive, but we kind of, went to the shallow end of your story, your transformation, going from a career, an 18-year career to doing this more transformative groundwork that is really going to help people accelerate their growth so they don't have to, bump their head 9, 10, 11 times for them to get something, right? Which is really amazing and powerful and needed. It's needed. So the last question is, how do you see yourself expanding from here?
I love that. So I see myself expanding from here by teaching these sciences globally. I want these sciences to be our language, our ways of life, so that we have the tools to navigate. And not just us, but our children. We pass it down. And so that is how I see myself expanding, and also through the healing that comes from interactions with the people that I meet, the community that we were talking about earlier. We start out thinking that we're going to be the teachers, and we find that we have other teachers who are learning from us as well. And so the sharing of knowledge from the people that I encounter is powerful. And so there are things that I learn from them, there are things that they learn from me. And so just the expanse of us sharing our ideas, our wisdom, our worldly knowledge and experience, and then traveling with it. I want to take this globally. And so thinking about the States is great, but I want to travel to other parts of the world and bring people to other parts of not just the theoretical aspects, but the spiritual, practical aspects of it, because there's two sides to this coin. Many of us are heavily steeped in the mind of it, but we don't know how to practice spirituality. So we understand how things are happening, but we don't know how to protect ourselves against certain things or to manifest certain things because we're not tapped into our ancestors in ways that we should be. And so just doing more of that work and bringing people's awareness and my own to higher heights is definitely the goal. I don't know how long it's going to take me, but I have the roadmap and I'm just following the breadcrumbs that the universe throws out to me little by little. And so one step at a time. It's gonna be done though.
Oh, I can see it, and I will definitely help you with that. Because,
Thank you, Lajoie.
I'll definitely have the international mission. I got you. Because, I think this is it's really cool. This is part of my purpose also. Something that I realized too was that I'm really here to bring the world to my audience, to whoever interacts with me on social media, whatever whatever you want to call it. I'm really here for that because I think the world is just the world is such a magical place, but it really is. But I think nobody's really tapped in, nobody's really, like you said earlier, people travel, but then they just do the tours and they, which is stuff that, like I said, hit it round the nail. I don't like, I'd rather go to, visit somebody's house
Me too.
and eat dinner with them than go to a restaurant, right? It's I really love that because it's just it's a much more fulfilling experience in my opinion. And I've definitely butted heads with people who I've traveled with. Like that's one of the things that I realized. That's why I like solo traveling because you don't always get to meet people when you travel who are kind of on that same frequency. And so, so I remember I went to a different country and these people who I was with, they wanted to go to Subway. And I was like, I didn't come all the way to this poor country to eat Subway. I was like, I'm so sorry, but no.
No, exactly.
I was like, no.
Not this trip, honey.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, we can. I'm very comfortable with myself at this point where I can go somewhere else to eat by myself. It's okay. It's fine. But thank you so much, Jacquie, for being on the show today. This was amazing. This was a really great show.
Thank you so much, Lajoie.
And Jacquie was very, very generous for y'all today. She is giving the first 5 people who email Transformation to Expansion, email her. First 5 people, you get a free paperback copy of her book, okay? Not no PDF, you get a paperback copy. And for those of y'all who are listening, 1 or 2 years in the future, you never know. Okay. So you never know how lucky you might be. So on the opportunity as soon as you can. Thank you so much, Jacquie. And are there any last words?
Thank you so much, Lajoie. I really enjoyed it. I hope to speak to you soon.
Thank you guys so much. Stop,
All right.
Thank you again. Y'all, I love y'all so much, and I will see y'all next time.